We have a very special episode for you today. I have Laura Carney here coming via satellite from Montclair. Am I right?
Montclair, yep.
Montclair, New Jersey. We're going to be talking about her book, My Father's List: How Living My Dad's Dreams Set Me Free. And she was just in town not too long ago. We weren't able to connect. Your boy is incredibly stacked and busy, and it's been my fault. It's not been hers. But I'm very excited to have her on now. So we're going to be talking about the book. We're also going to find out, some kind of deep dives out there as far as just kind of like some of her favorite pop culture things and some other side questions that we've gotten from some fans out there that are also excited for this episode. So, Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited that you have questions from fans. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, so during the pre-show, we were just catching up, and I was telling her about my trivia nights. I've been letting our fans know about your book and how we have this interview coming up. Yes, of course, I'm all about the promotion. At the end of the day, and I feel like your story is just absolutely incredible. I know you said you mailed the book to me. I cannot wait to read it. I am not much of a reader, so for me to say I'm going to read it, I'm going to, and especially your story and just kind of like the cliff notes that I've gotten from other interviews and things like that. Super excited about it. So as we brought this up, I've asked some fans out there, like, hey, what would you ask Laura, if you were on the episode with us? So I do have some questions for you. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about the book, obviously, and B, obviously, where people can find it at.
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I love your show. My dad was a huge pop culture nerd. Oh my gosh. It's like
Yeah.
every conversation we had was just movie quotes, TV quotes over and over again. Ridiculous, horrible jokes. Um, but the book's called My Father's List: How Living My Dad's Dreams Set Me Free. And I was honored earlier this fall when the Greensboro Public Library chose it as the One City Read. It's called One City, One Book.
Hmm.
And that was when you and I got in touch. And I got to, gosh, I think I did about 24 events in three
Yeah,
weeks. I just went all over Greensboro. It was a blast. And, if you're in Greensboro for 3 weeks, you get to know Greensboro pretty well, I
true.
think. And it happened just because I had come on my book tour. So
Yeah.
the book came out in 2023.
Okay.
And I'll show you your viewers or listeners the back. There's my dad and me and my brother. That's on Easter. You can see my brother's in his T-ball shirt. I don't think he felt like dressing up for the rest of the day after church. But yeah, it's about so my father died when I was 25 because of a distracted driver. A teenager was making a phone call because she was lost.
Hmm.
And he was 54. I had just moved to New York City, just met my husband. He actually, by some kind of blessing, met my husband that very week. So he did meet him one time, and then he
Wow.
died 5 days later. But over the next, I don't know, 13 years or so, I sort of just tried to like put it behind me, like just
Sure.
try to live a normal adult life despite this horrific tragedy that had happened because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
I remember I would go to Barnes and Noble, try to find books on how to cope when your father died in a car crash, and I could not find them.
Sure.
So, a fledgling journalist myself, I moved to New York for a magazine internship. At some point, I think it was around a year after he died, I wrote down a pledge to myself that I was going to write that book.
Yeah.
I was going to write it for anybody else who needed it. I
Yeah.
just didn't develop the courage to do it until 6 months after I got married. I was 38 years old,
Hmm.
and my brother found this bucket list,
Yeah.
which my dad had written when he was 29. So it wasn't like he was thinking about dying. He was thinking about his life was beginning because
Yeah.
I had actually just been born that same year. So some people say, oh, maybe he was like, thinking about his mortality more because now he's a father for the first time. So it almost felt to me, I don't want to say almost, it did feel to me like he just planted that in my hands at exactly the right moment because
Yeah.
now I was married and now I was lost because I was like, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Like I finally got married. I want to be a writer. Like I was starting to get published. I wanted to keep pursuing that. As a woman at midlife, you're kind of like, well, am I going to have kids? How am I going to
Sure.
balance it all? For me, it was like this incredible reminder of who my dad was and what a free spirit he was and what a
Yeah.
creative person he was. And then it became like a permission slip. So for the next 6 years, I finished all 54 undone items on the list. And as I was doing it to, to honor him, to bring awareness to distracted driving,
Yeah.
I actually just started becoming more and more aware of what I was capable of,
Yeah.
And like some of the list items I thought were going to be completely impossible were fine and even enjoyable. I loved golf, go figure. Never thought that was going to happen. But the
Right.
other, I think, really beautiful thing that happened, and probably my favorite thing to write about, is how it changed my relationships.
Okay.
Because now I have these bonds with all the remaining people in my family,
Sure.
friends, new friendships I developed with strangers who did something on this list with me. So in that way, my dad, like our bond lives on through
Yeah.
these other people, which I never expected that would happen. So it's been just quite, the list itself was an incredible journey, but getting to publish a book about it and promote it and get to go and meet all these people, like that's been another incredible journey.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's such a fantastic story. And like I said, I can't wait to get into the book. I've done some research on it. From what everyone says, it's fantastic, even, local people around town.
Oh,
So,
thanks.
one of the first questions that I got was, like what really like helped you decide to not only honor the list, but to commit to completing all the items on there, especially since because I think he only completed 5 of the items himself before he passed, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, he did. And one of them he marked as having failed at, which was paying his dad back $1,000 plus
Oh,
interest,
wow.
which was very, illuminating in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And I think it was two things. One, as an activist, I had met all of these families who had had usually a child who had died in some kind of a distracted driving incident.
Sure.
So let's say I wake up and that's my day to check off go skydiving at least
Yeah.
once, and I'm really scared. The first thought I'm going to have is of those families.
Yeah.
And I'm making a bold gesture because I'm trying to bring attention to them. So
Yeah.
I would say that was the first thing. And then the other thing was just so, okay, so I'm an Aries. It's my birthday next week. My
Yeah.
dad was also an Aries. He used to tease me all the time about how we were both like natural born leaders
Uh-huh.
and good at starting things,
Yeah.
but not good at finishing things.
Okay.
So I watched my dad jump from idea to idea to idea. I
Sure.
mean, right, makes sense with a guy with a list of 60 items that nobody knows about.
Right. Right.
I watched him do that his whole life, and I had developed this complex, unbeknownst to me, what if I'm someone who can't finish things too?
Sure.
So
Sure.
that honestly, I mean, I don't know what's the word for that, spite. Like I just I just like had to do it just to prove to myself that I could do it.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, by completing, my main question is what was the first thing that you decided to tackle on the list?
Oh, it was run 10 miles straight.
Okay. Okay. And how was that with the process? Because I can tell you, I walk a half a mile before my lunch break. I walk a half a mile after, but 10 miles straight. The only time I ever do that is when I'm actually in New York City. And it's never really intentional. It's just, you're going to walk
Yeah.
about 10 miles a day in New York. But what was your process like with that, especially, straight, like right at it?
I mean, I assume my dad meant like in a row. You know,
Right.
like with
Right.
so he wasn't really a runner. Like
Yeah.
he exercised. He was a big basketball player. That was his
Okay.
thing. He was a big Sixers fan.
Okay.
But yeah, was already a runner. I had already finished the New York Marathon the year before. So I thought, well, you know what? I already have done more than 10 miles straight. So I think what I'm gonna do is just not walk. Like
Sure.
this will be 10 miles of running, which meant, a 12-minute mile, a little bit of a slower mile for me. But the
Yeah.
challenge was to just not walk. But that was funny because that was the origin of the ridiculous things that would happen. Because
Sure.
when I finally did it in the Los Angeles Marathon, I forgot that running 10 miles straight means I can't stop to use the bathroom.
Right.
So I
Right.
started peeing my pants. And so when I finished the 10 miles, I had just urine down my legs and I had to be okay with it. And I could have just picture my dad laughing his head off.
Right. Oh my goodness.
But the
That is
list items were
fantastic.
all like that though.
Yeah.
They all had something. I threw up when I went skydiving.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All something ridiculous and funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great segue to my next question is, of the list of everything that you've completed on there, which one for you, and I guess kind of a two-part question, which one for you was kind of like mentally or emotionally the hardest, and which one was physically the hardest?
Oh, mentally and emotionally would be number three, write and have a few novels published.
Right. Sure.
Because I was a writer already. I worked at Good Housekeeping for almost a decade. I published essays here and there, but just the idea of taking an essay and making it like a 300-page book felt very daunting to me.
Sure.
And I used to focus very closely on the idea of write and have a few novels published and not like write and have a few good novels published. Like all I had to do was get it done.
Yeah.
And let's pray it's going to be good. But like that, because that trips people up. Like
Sure.
whenever you hear about someone writing a book, they're like, oh, I just don't know if it's any good. And that's
Right.
what stops them. But I had like a pass on that because all I had to do was finish it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. Like I had like a detachment, but my dad was a writer too. So
Okay.
but honestly, after a while, what helped me with that the most was I really felt like he was writing it with me.
Oh man.
Like sometimes there'd be a paragraph, I'd be like, I'm not this good. Where did this come from? So I think he was like planting stuff in my head. The hardest one physically, that surprised me. And this was a thing that happened over and over again on the list. Anytime I was arrogant and thought, I got this piece of cake, I'm going to do this in a day,
Yeah.
I would just fall flat on my face. I would do, and that's so my dad, because he was always trying to keep me humble all the
Yeah.
time. He used to joke with me, like, Laura, how many sentences did you just start with the word I? You know? So what happened with the tennis item that I did, it was beat a number one seed in a tennis tournament. And I didn't see tournament because the notebook paper was folded
Okay.
on the list. I just saw beat a number one seed in tennis. So I thought I'm going to go out in one day and beat my husband's best friend, who's a tennis coach.
Yeah.
Landed on the ball of my foot, tore a tendon in my foot. Later ended up having to get surgery. Was on the couch for 3 months. But the good part was, since I couldn't get up off the couch, I finally wrote the scene of my dad's funeral,
Okay.
which I had been running away from.
Sure.
And I learned to let my husband help me,
Yeah.
basically. I stopped. So, like, it was stuff like that. Like, anytime something went wrong, there was always a plus side. There was
Yeah.
always, like, oh, it's not like the Rolling Stones song, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you can't always get what you want, but sometimes
Yeah.
you get what you need.
Oh, goodness, Laura. I'm like so glad that we're catching up on this. This is like right up our alley because we do a lot of besides pop culture. I suffer from depression and anxiety. So does my daughter. Pretty much everybody in our family does. And there are things like I did not cope well with all of my grandparents passing away because even though they were all in Puerto Rico, we still were fairly close, and it's something that I still cope with. Like there are a lot of times where I feel bad because I didn't really cry at their funerals. It's something that same thing, just kind of ran away from, and I feel like this story here, it's not just the bucket list, but also helping you cope and deal
Yeah.
because I know that's a lot of the story as well. Um, so, with that being said, one of the questions I got from one of our trivia fans out there, Jody, who read the book actually, and let me pull the question up here. Oh, it's about that you mentioned that your dad unfortunately was struck by a distracted driver,
Mhm.
and that you become a strong advocate against distracted driving. How has your advocacy evolved as part of this journey?
That's a really good question. And it is something I touch on in the book, but I didn't like get real deep into it.
Yeah.
My husband's vegan, and he actually what's the word? He turned me. Like at some
Right.
point while writing this book and doing this project, I became vegan. He converted me. That's the word I
Yeah.
was looking for.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Writer couldn't think of a word.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I became vegan and I started to learn a lot from him and from his beliefs and how he really lives by them, but he doesn't force anything on anybody ever. And I started kind of wondering with my activism, if I'm only talking about this in a tragic way, or in a scary way, like showing them pictures of something that happened, like
Yeah.
is that helping my message? Like I
Sure.
wasn't sure if it was working for me personally.
Yeah.
So because my dad was a storyteller and he was he used to sing in piano bars, he was like a nightlife guy, like he was
Yeah.
an entertainer kind of person.
Yeah.
Finding this list almost became just this more fitting way of doing the activism. And
Yeah.
I started developing this philosophy as I was doing it of You know what? You would think with how much I'm traveling, I went to 10 places at least, if not like 18 for this bucket list over
Sure.
6 years. You would think I would be on my phone. Like
Yeah.
you would think I would be trying to capture everything, even in dangerous situations, even when behind the wheel. But I don't need to do that
Mhm.
because I don't have to do that because it actually ruins it because I want to be present.
Yeah.
I wasn't what I was doing was not a performance. It was an actual experience of living out something my dad wanted to live out. So I need to live.
Yeah.
I can't just be behind my phone, just like putting in time. So what I started to understand as I was transforming and I'm now becoming this very present person,
Hmm.
present people drive safely anyway.
Yeah.
Like people who value their lives and have goals and
Yeah.
are excited to be alive, they're not going to use their phone because they just want to get to where they're going next and they have more respect and awareness of other people on the road. So I thought I'm just going to like be the change. Like I want to be like a positive reinforcer of, hey guys, like it's better if you don't use your phone anyway.
Yeah.
like actually be here. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Well, one of the things that I love saying is be the change that you want to see in the world.
It's
It's
so
not,
much better.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not just talking about it. It's not just posting about it. Be it. It's
Well, yeah.
actions. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of falls in line with my dad's philosophy too. My dad, oh my God, I used to get so embarrassed. My dad wrote a book in the 70s. He
Yeah.
would not stop talking about it. Called it's called The Why Generation in a Why Not World.
Okay.
And his whole thesis of the book was how like people in the 60s were kind of like, radicals and revolutionary and trying to change everything. But
Sure.
then he watched his generation go into the 70s and suddenly they were like apathetic and it was like the me generation and what's in it for me.
Sure.
So the thesis of the book was why not if you can get away with it?
Right. Okay.
So he was
Okay.
saying, no, ask why.
Yeah.
Ask why so that's so that really influenced. And I think he just would be so tickled that I finally actually read the book.
I love it because I find myself too, whether if it's an event and even on the road, like I'm not an, quote unquote influencer by any means. The content that my daughter and I create, we're both not huge on social media. Like, yes, we love it to an extent for the content and watching others, but we're not posting every single day and things like that. And I always try to live in the now and in the moment, whether
Yeah.
if it's a concert, especially when I'm just in a car. Like I find things about Greensboro I just absolutely love.
Oh
And
my
to be
gosh, it's
honest with you,
great.
I don't know if you notice this, but Greensboro has some horrendous drivers. So you really have to be in the moment. So I'm not trying to add to
No, I
the
didn't
terrible
notice.
drivers. Okay, you're lucky. Like I said, I've been here 30 years, and even my daughter, she just moved back last year, and she was in North Myrtle Beach of all places. And for her to say that even the driving here is worse than North Myrtle Beach,
Right.
I tend to agree with her. But at the end of the day, I find myself to where, and even my wife's the same way too. We don't do a lot of selfies, a lot of pictures. We're very like in the moment people because they make great memories. And let's be honest, when you go like, I'm not going to go back to my phone for a concert that I went to like 7 years ago. Like it may show up on my time hop, but it's
Yeah.
just one of those things to where it's like, people are so obsessed with getting everything on their phone and being on the phone and not missing a single minute of it. Like they forget to like live life and just enjoy life. And that's very, very
Yeah. Well, and
unfortunate.
it's having a detrimental effect on teenagers' mental health too. It's
Yeah,
like they're growing up in this culture where people are just looking at other people's lives. And so it's like even before they have a chance to figure out who they are, what they want to do, they're comparing themselves to other people. So
and that's the thing that kills me. It's the comparison. Because at
yeah,
the end of the
it's
day,
it's human. It's
yeah,
human.
right. And it is. And if anything, like as humans, like I'm my own worst critic, and most people are, and it just happens. But then you get this on social media, and a lot of people don't understand to separate that because
Hmm.
at the end of the day, and I had this conversation earlier on an interview I did with my buddy Alex, who's got a radio show in West Virginia. Another line that I use is, "You're not a taco. You're not going to make everybody happy." And
That's on a sign right in front of my building right now.
oh, there it is. I mean, it's the absolute truth. So I always
Yep.
tell people, you know what, go for it. Like, embarrass yourself, be humiliated, do whatever, because even if you knock it out of the park and it's the best thing you ever did, there's going to be some loser out there that has nothing better to do with their time to just bash whatever it is that you're doing for whatever
Yeah.
you're doing.
Well, and you know what? That's part of it. That's
Hmm.
people who are successful are just people who are willing to fail over and over. And
Exactly.
some people have told me what they like about my father's list, what they like about the book is I am not Superwoman doing this stuff. Like I'm
Right.
peeing my pants while running. I'm
Right.
puking up apples. I'm skydiving. When I checked off ride a horse fast, like the horses were just pooping in front of me. Like that was it was like very real.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was what made it fun.
Exactly. Exactly. So, of your incredible journey of checking these things off the list, is there any particular part or parts that surprised you the most, whether just about you, or was there anything on the list that you were very surprised that your dad had on that list?
Oh, things, I was just surprised by how organized he was in
Sure.
general.
Okay.
Because, like I said, he was a dreamer. He was like a free spirit. I think he got very restless easily and would move from one thing to the next. I think sometimes he could be addicted to the newness, the novelty of an idea,
Sure.
and then want to move to the next thing. But he actually, like, it wasn't just the bucket list. I mean, he had all kinds of lists I ended up discovering along the way. It was so weird. Like little things would pop up right at the right time.
Hmm.
So it was like when I was ready to start outlining my book, an outline for the book he wrote showed up in a notebook that I didn't know was there.
Wow.
When I was ready to start pitching agents, suddenly like all of these, envelopes from like agents he had pitched in New York, that started showing up. I
Sure.
mean, I'm getting chills almost talking about it because
Yeah.
like he really was passionate about becoming a published author. He really cared about it.
Yeah.
And, how often do we have these dreams in our lives of doing something we really love, but it's very difficult to figure out how to do it. So I mean, that's really why that particular list item, I mean, that's been probably the most meaningful to me because I knew how much he wanted to have that experience.
Sure. Sure. Love it. Now, speaking of which, what was the process like when you started? You completed the book. It's like, okay, now let's see who's going to be able to publish it. What was that process like for you? Was it, strenuous, long? Tell us the journey for it getting from, your hands to now being nationally published book.
Well, okay, so I am now being able to teach classes on this, which which is kind of nice, kind of a nice perk. But I'll try to sum it up,
Sure.
which I know my dad would be laughing at because I'm very Irish. So I started really with a blog.
Okay.
I recommend people do that because it gives you. I used to be I think I might have mentioned this to you at some point. I used to be a TV recapper. That's how I really got disciplined with my writing.
Okay.
I worked at OK Magazine. That was one of my earliest jobs, and I wrote about Lost. And then when I went to
Okay.
Good Housekeeping, I started writing about Mad Men. And I don't know
Okay.
why I tend to love writing about like the last season of a
Sure.
show. Like make it as easy as possible, right? like
Right.
like you gotta please all the diehard fans when you're doing the last season.
Yeah.
But the thing that was cool about that though was it was like I developed this discipline of okay, every week I have to turn out at least 1,000 words for these people,
Okay.
and they're really in love with this show,
Yeah.
and even if it's just on my blog, they're gonna come back and look like I'm gonna help them find Easter eggs, etc.
Sure.
But at the same time, there's less pressure because it wasn't always on the website of the place I was working.
Okay.
Like sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't. So I developed a routine, but also less pressure. And then when I started my blog for my father's list, it was the same thing. Even though I lucked out in that my editors at my magazine published an essay I wrote about it.
Hmm.
Like that was a huge break for me.
Yeah.
And that later helped me with getting an agent.
Yeah.
I also joined a writers group because one of my friends at my job liked my blog.
Yeah.
And I really balked at it too. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's for like hippies." You know? Like that
Uh-huh.
doesn't do anything. But I was so wrong because if you have like a group of people you're meeting with regularly and you're taking turns submitting your stuff, that way you figure out who your audience is.
Okay. Okay.
And they have to be people who are going to tell you the truth. So I would say do that. Develop routines that work for you. I started freelancing instead of working full time. So some days I wasn't working and then I could just get up at noon, you know, I mean, I had it down to a science. Get up, make the bed, do the dishes, get the Dunkin' Donuts coffee,
Yeah.
sage my crystals,
Yeah.
and then hopefully something happens.
Yeah.
And if nothing's happening, then I have to start reading memoirs. So
Okay.
also read the books that are like the one you want to write. So that
Okay.
went on for months and months. I would say it took me about 4 years to write it.
Sure.
And I did it while I was doing the list.
Uh-huh.
So it was like juggling different kinds of research. Like either I'm researching something I did 2 years ago, or
Okay.
I'm researching a thing I'm about to do next week. Like that
Okay.
was how it was. But I like doing lots of things at once, so it was fine. As far as getting an agent, the first one I was signed with, I think for about a year or so,
Hmm.
and then he wasn't able to sell it on idea alone. Sometimes they'll do that with a memoir. They'll just
Sure.
like create a proposal. Here's what it's going to look like. I think honestly, in retrospect, the reason that happened was because we didn't know what it was going to be.
Okay.
How could
Okay.
I possibly know how much
Yeah.
I was going to change from this journey? And that's really what the book's about. It's like
Sure.
you watch me change.
Yeah.
So I guess it was year three. I kind of took what I had. I had 200 pages about year one, and I just fixed it. Like I just made it how I wanted it to be.
Okay.
And then once I was happy with it, just by total coincidence, like someone who had liked my writing from years back wrote to me on Instagram. And they're like, "Hey, did you ever get that book deal?" And I'm like, "Come to think of it, here's the story. I had this
Yeah.
agent and now I don't. Does anyone ever find another agent after they don't have one?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, that happens all the time. In fact, I know someone
Oh,
who
wow.
might be interested." And then that's how I found my like absolutely wonderful agent who's completely perfect for me. And she just like shepherded me through the rest of it. So I would say a good half of the book was written during the pandemic,
Okay.
but I got that agent like right before the pandemic started.
Oh my gosh. That's
And
fantastic.
then you do the proposal and then you pitch it to publishers and
Yeah.
then you find the right one. But you have to be patient. That's what it is. It's really just like in some ways it's a waiting game.
Oh, I'm sure. I always tell people, look, and especially when it comes to media, a lot of it's a marathon, not a race. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
do what you love and be passionate about it. Because if you're not passionate about it, it's not something you love, it's going to show. It's going to show through whether if it's a podcast, a book, whatever it is. Like a lot of people that I talk to, just want to get like the clicks and the likes and this, that, and the other. And you can pay for those, unfortunately.
Right.
And we've never done that here at Zero Dark Nerdy. I know we don't have the most likes or follows of any other podcast. We're not Joe Rogan status or anything like that. But at the end of the day, my daughter and I are doing something that we love, and hopefully people get entertained by it and learn something new. Or we like I said, we talk a lot about mental health, and we just kind of give advice on some, certain things that we do. Certain episodes will be like, here are some shows that help us get through a rough day, or some music, or whatever it may be. And we hope it touches people. And from what the feedback that we've gotten has been relatively good. At the end of the day, it's not like, oh, you guys are terrible and this, that, the other. And if it was, I don't really care. I
Well, I
enjoy doing
mean,
it. So
the fact that you enjoy it is, I mean,
yeah,
you that's palpable. When I watch your show, I can feel that.
yeah,
And that's really the secret to success
a
is
hundred percent.
not just the discipline and the consistency and the courage, but also can people feel what you're feeling? And
Yeah.
that's what people want. Like they want to experience your passion vicariously.
Yes. Ah, Laura, we're here. We are here. So loving it, loving it. In terms of the bucket list itself, and this is something that I talked about with my daughter, and kind of like her question as well as my question too. Which one or ones would you say were some of your favorite to check off? And are there any that was like painfully dreadful or just like really, really, really tough to knock out?
Oh gosh, painfully dreadful. Should I do that one first?
Totally up to you.
I'll give you like a trick answer. I thought the Pope one was going to be horrible,
Sure.
like 'cause I was so scared. And knowing me, like I really get into rabbit holes. Like I said, I'm a TV recapper
Yeah.
by trade in my heart. So I was just watching the entire history of Christianity in Europe, and like learning all about every pope that's ever existed
Sure.
before I was willing to write that letter. And in the end, I wrote to Pope Francis, and then I got a response in 6 weeks.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, what he has four people who are his designated letter writers, or he did.
Yeah.
He's has since passed, but so yeah, and I actually, it's funny. My uncle found out later that the guy who wrote me back, it was his first day on the job,
Wow.
which
Okay.
probably lowered.
Sure.
Lowered the chances he was going to say no to somebody.
Right, right. Kismet. I'm sure that's your dad shining down on you too, being like,
I mean,
we're
so
gonna
much
give
in
it to the
life is
new guy.
timing. So
Yeah.
much of it, it's amazing.
Oh,
But so yeah, that's one I really dreaded, was really afraid of, and then of
sure.
course 6 weeks later, you get an envelope from the Vatican.
Yeah.
What was the other one? The one I really enjoyed, which
Yeah, or
surprised
even
me.
if there's a few, yeah, just, a couple that maybe surprise you like as much as you may have enjoyed it and not expected it, or just ones that you really enjoyed.
Talk with the president.
Yeah.
On kind of on the same in the same vein as correspond with the Pope, but
Yeah.
talk with the president. I didn't know how I was going to do that one. It felt
Mhm.
very daunting, and I wrote to every single living president,
Yeah.
in office or not in office. And this was
Sure.
2017.
Yeah.
And eventually I got in touch with, and I talk about this in the book, but I got in touch with Jimmy Carter's, his center, his foundation.
Yeah.
And someone at the foundation and the presidential library in Atlanta said, "Come on down, I'll give you a tour," and just started shepherding me through how do you go about going to his Sunday school,
Yeah.
because he was like 93, I think, at the
Yeah.
time, and he was still teaching Sunday school every Sunday in Plains, Georgia. So I really actually did have a chance to talk with him, but it was very suspenseful, which made for like great writing because it's like up to the very last minute. It's like, well, okay, we can get a pew in the church, but
Mhm.
can I meet him? We can get a picture with him. I can shake his hand, but will he answer a question? And even like at the Sunday school, this woman who served as like an MC was meeting everybody. There's like maybe 300 people there, and she's saying, "Don't talk to him." Like, he doesn't do interviews after church. Just pose for your picture, and then because
Right.
think about how many people wanted to meet him.
Sure.
So
Sure.
we had like this tremendous stroke of luck. We got to our hotel at the exact same moment that one of his biographers got to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I struck up a conversation with him. We ended up talking about Jimmy Carter for like 2 hours in the parking lot. We kept seeing him around town the rest of the weekend. So by the time we even ended up in the church, he had put in a good word for us.
Wow.
So I did get to have a conversation with him. And I remember walking out and just telling my husband that was the most impossible one.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like, if I could do that, the rest of these 50 items, whatever it was at that point.
Sure.
And actually, his name is Art Milnes. He's a Canadian speechwriter for prime ministers.
Mhm.
And he came down to Greensboro when I was there. And he spoke about his friendship with Jimmy Carter, who actually spent the night at his house once.
Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's so freaking cool. Love
But
it.
that was one of the really cool parts, like I said before, the relationships.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Art tomorrow. He's like an
Yeah.
uncle to me now.
Yeah. And you said, another thing you said was timing. Timing.
Everything is timing.
Everything is timing. The planets align. When things happen, they just make sense. So,
Well, timing, faith, and hard work.
yeah.
Those three things. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Now, this is like a question from me. A couple of them been from me, and then a couple from fans. So I just got to ask, it may have crossed your mind. Now, if they ever make a movie on your book, who would you like to play you in the book? Or in the film, I guess you could say. Or even if it's a TV show.
You know who I think would be really good is gosh, what is her name? Did you ever see that movie Palm Springs with Andy Samberg?
Yes, yes.
The actress who was in that, I feel like she would be great.
I think if I remember
She also had a
correctly,
bit part on How I Met Your Mother.
yeah, I think that's I can't remember her name, but she was in. Oh, Chris.
Oh,
Oh, sorry,
Christina
Kristen.
Milioti.
Yes. Oh, I love her.
Isn't she
Oh my
cool?
goodness, she's great. She was great in The Penguin as the villain. She's been great in everything. I first saw her in the USS episode of Black Mirror.
Yep.
She was fantastic. She was great in Wolf of Wall Street. Yeah, that's right. Sarah Wilder was her character name. Is it Milotti?
Milioti, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Milioti.
I just
Yes,
think
she's
she
great.
she can do comedy,
Yeah,
really, and there's so much silly stuff that happened
yeah,
to me. But also she has a lot of complexity to her.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Because I mean, she's a great villain in The Penguin, and she can do the comedy. She, like I said,
Yeah.
she was great in Black Mirror. She was fantastic in Wolf of Wall Street. So hopefully, we are gonna will that into existence. Now, would you prefer if your story was made into a TV show? Because especially with movies, and we talk about this a lot on the podcast, it's very hard to capture the entire book in just one film, unless you're going to break it up
Yeah.
into multiple films, things like that. Would you prefer if it was a movie, or would you be okay if it was like a mini series or something like that?
I mean, people tell me movie all the time. I think because, I mean, good Lord, this looks like a movie poster.
It really does. I
You know,
meant to say
my
that when I
husband
saw
is
it.
designing movie posters now, so,
Oh my gosh, that's like my dream job growing up was, even though I'm not a designer at all, it was either going to be designing movie posters because I collect movie posters. I have over 200 movie posters. Unfortunately,
you're
not
new
on my
to me.
walls. So I'm saving it. I've told my wife, I said, when we get a house with a garage, you best believe the garage is going to be papered in movie posters.
Okay, next time we come to Greensboro, you and Steven Sigmund need to meet.
Yes.
Weekly Movie Throwdown, that's the name of his podcast. Anyway,
Yes. No, no, I love it. I love it. Plug it. Plug it all day. And then I also grew up wanting to do movie trailers. Movie posters and movie trailers are
oh
just.
yeah. He does a thing where when we go to the movies, he has to like he'll test himself if he can remember what the trailers were. Do you do that too?
Oh, wow. No, no. But I'm one of those, and you can ask my wife, you can ask my daughter. Like, I know that now most theaters have assigned seating. I'm still like, I have to be at the movie theater at least 10 to 15 minutes early. Because
Oh,
I'm not.
30 minutes. 30 minutes for him. That's the
Oh, yeah,
rule.
that's my dad. My dad is 30 minutes. I've now gotten better. It used to be 30 minutes for me. Now it's 30 minutes if there's not assigned seating, which is very few and far between nowadays. If it is assigned seating, at least 15 minutes. And I normally don't like going opening weekend because of the lines and the crowd, because I want to get my popcorn. I want to
Uh,
have, make sure my seat is at the right level. I want to get settled in. And it does drive me crazy when people walk in like 10, 15 minutes into the trailers. I'm just like, oh, hurry up and sit down. So,
yeah. Yeah, he's in the A list. You know, the A list, the
yeah,
AMC
yeah,
membership.
yeah.
He's a big, yeah. He just texted me. I love this guy.
Good, good. Yes,
But
next time
anyway,
you're in
yeah, sorry.
Greensboro, we are going to grab something to eat. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk. We are now instantly friends.
Yeah.
Last but definitely not least, something I always like asking people that come on the show, and being the fact that you have written, articles and blogs, like you said, for Lost and Mad Men. What are some of your favorite, fandoms in terms of like shows, movies, music, whatever it may be? Like, what are you into?
Yeah, I mean, I think I am really a big TV person. I've been realizing that lately. I actually
Mhm.
just recently applied for a job writing about TV for
Yeah,
Collider because I'm like, yeah, I should do this.
as you should.
But I mean, and to fully answer your question before, I can see it as a TV show too, just
Okay.
because there's 54 items, so that could just go on and on and on and
Very
be like
good point.
every episode
Every
could be a different
episode could
item.
be an item.
Yep.
Very
Yep.
good
But
point.
I I guess people listening to this but not watching it won't be able to see this, but this is the birthday card that my uncle just gave me. Why did it have to be cakes?
Uh-huh.
Which Indiana Jones.
Yep, yep, yep.
I think that's the first one, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Big Indiana Jones fan. This is my journal, which my brother gave
Oh,
me.
wow. From Back to the Future. I love it. Look at that.
Yeah, I mean
That
that's
is
cool that
great.
that exists, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things I first I think was doing unintentionally, but ended up just really feeling like a fair tribute to my dad was I really sprinkled those movies into the books. You'll probably
Yeah,
like that part of it. Like
I know I will.
Back to the Future stuff just started showing up
Yeah,
out of nowhere, and I started to realize I think my dad's communicating with me through movies and
yeah.
through the movies from the 80s and 90s that we loved because that was really how we communicated. Every My parents divorced when I was 6.
Hmm.
So my relationship with my dad was every Wednesday and Sunday.
Yeah,
And it was, what movie do you want to see? And did
sure.
you watch Seinfeld this week? And like that was what we talked about. As for me, I mean, I watch everything. It just kind of depends on my mood. I've really surprised myself recently in that I've been watching stuff like The Empress on
Okay,
Netflix.
okay.
Like I've never been one of those like Victorian or like 1800s women, but I don't know. Sometimes I feel like those shows have like a tinge of feminism to them. It's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. Laura, hang out with us for a minute here after we sign off. Again, the book, How Living My Dad's Dreams Set Me Free. You can find it Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, right? Pretty much everywhere. Am I missing any stores or any online stores or
Yeah,
anything?
it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So be sure to check it out. hang out with us for a minute. This has been such a blast. We're definitely going to connect next time you're in town or next time I'm in New Jersey. So again, be sure to check out the book. Thank you so much, Laura. Yes, I'd love to stay in touch and tell your husband I said hello. We'll definitely
I
be
will.
checking out his podcast. And if he ever wants to join ours, more than welcome. So, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He says yes.
I love it. Big thank you to our sponsors, Sailfish Comics, Golden Ticket Cinemas, Fox 8 WGHP. And this is your boy Brian. Jordan says hi. Leia is always in our hearts and souls. And we will see you next time. Peace.
Thanks for having me.
So, Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited that you have questions from fans. I'm not expecting that.
Yeah, so during the pre-show, we were just catching up, and I was telling her about my trivia nights. I've been letting our fans know about your book and how we have this interview coming up. Yes, of course, I'm all about the promotion. At the end of the day, and I feel like your story is just absolutely incredible. I know you said you mailed the book to me. I cannot wait to read it. I am not much of a reader, so for me to say I'm going to read it, I'm going to, and especially your story and just kind of like the cliff notes that I've gotten from other interviews and things like that. Super excited about it. So as we brought this up, I've asked some fans out there, like, hey, what would you ask Laura, if you were on the episode with us? So I do have some questions for you. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about the book, obviously, and B, obviously, where people can find it
Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. I love your show. My dad was a huge pop culture nerd. Oh my gosh. It's like
at.
every conversation we had was just movie quotes, TV quotes over and over again, ridiculous, horrible jokes.